Elon Musk now says only verified users will show up in Twitter's recommendation feed in a further shaking up of Twitter's feed. Now, what does that mean and why is it so important? Elon Musk said only verified accounts will appear in Twitter's For You recommendation feed. Musk claims the move is the only realistic way to address advanced AI bots swarming, taking over. So this is the tweet right here. He says this is the only realistic way to stop advanced AI bots. Voting in polls will also require verification for the same reason. And verification, for those that don't know, requires on average $7 to $8 a month. So in order to be verified on Twitter, what does it mean to be verified? It's that little blue check right there. You now have to pay $8 a month for Twitter Blue, which will allow you to now be verified. I have a lot of thoughts on this. I think there's the good and there's the bad. Ultimately, I conclude that this is gooder. Obviously, that's not a word. This is more good than bad. I think the underlying principle to understand about why this is happening is, first of all, Twitter is not a profitable company. Twitter is not a company that monetizes correctly on advertising. Facebook, to give you a little bit of context, Meta did $32 billion in advertising revenue, not last year, last quarter. Twitter barely did $4 billion in revenue last year. So, and it's been declining because many advertisers have been going away because they don't like the checks and safety now that it's kind of like a free-for-all on Twitter and you can say whatever you want without being censored. So Twitter's advertising revenue not only is declining, and you know, Elon Musk says some advertisers are coming back, so they might break even by Q2, which is a good thing, but it's not good. Like, there's just not relevant advertising. The function of Twitter when you're like scrolling through the feed is not meant to like click on ads. Whereas on Facebook and Instagram, ads almost seem as if they're content. And Twitter has never been able to figure out, how do we make ads seem like content? I mean, think about it, the reason Facebook works and the reason like people like advertise on the platform is because when people scroll, they end up just clicking the ad because the ads are compelling. And so the advertising product on Facebook and Instagram is pretty good. On YouTube, it's pretty good. Google search, obviously very good. Twitter, it sucks. And so one of the only ways, if you can't grow user bases, because these social platforms are only monetized if you have massive amounts of users that then you can then monetize via their attention for an advertising infrastructure, is make them pay for the platform. It's like Netflix, right? Netflix, people pay for the content, and therefore Netflix spends their money to buy more content. They just recently started introducing ads, but for the longest time, their business model has been you pay and you get access to the content. So if advertising is not the primary form of monetization for Twitter, and it's not a strong form of monetization for Twitter, the question then becomes, what is going to allow Twitter to monetize at scale? Twitter's user base also is just not at the level at Facebook or Instagram. Facebook has 2 billion DAUs. Facebook barely has about 240 million DAUs. And so when if it's literally about monetizing attention, there's just not that much attention on Twitter, even though, in some parts of the world, Twitter may seem like the biggest thing in the world. I literally have friends who never use Twitter. Like, maybe they have an account, but they never go on it. And I'm over here on Twitter, like tweeting every day, interacting with people, building a community. It's fun. I enjoy it. I like it. I learn, I discover new stuff, I network with people. And then I have friends who are like, why are you on Twitter? Right. But that's not the same for Instagram. Everyone's on Instagram, right? That's not the same for TikTok. Everyone's on TikTok. So at that point, you've got a user base that is just not strong enough to justify an advertising revenue. Now, the other problem is, which is why he's asking people to pay. The other problem is that Twitter is noisy. It is the truly only public town square, in my opinion, that actually exists in the world, right? There are some competitors to Twitter, but none of them have the network effects that allow Twitter to be the behemoth that it is, right? The network effects are basically one user coming to the network adds residual value to another user coming to the network. So if I want to build a brand around Palantir and I start tweeting about Palantir and there's other people that care about Palantir on Twitter, that creates a community and that keeps you on the network, engaged within the network, and allows you to siphon attention from the network within your own little portion of using the network, which in this case is the account and the following that you've been able to build. So if the network effects are only really on Twitter when it comes to knowledge workers, these are journalists, these are academics, these are people that create content for a living in the form of articles and Substacks and things of this nature, it's very noisy. I think there's an estimated 6,000 tweets per second, which means if there's 6,000 tweets per second and it is very noisy and it's competitive to try to get attention, Elon Musk knows if this is the only place where people can get attention at scale, if you're a knowledge worker, $8 a month, $7 a month is a measly amount of price to pay, right? If you have a Substack where you have a $10 subscription, you need one subscription to justify your $8 a month per month. If you have a YouTube channel, if you can get a video to get $100 in ad revenue, 8 times 12, 96, boom, you paid for your Twitter Blue subscription because you were able to drive traffic from Twitter to your YouTube content and you were able to make $100 in ad revenue. So I think for I don't want to say professional content creator, but even for a mediocre, average, basic person just trying to get started in content creation, the Twitter Blue subscription is justifiably worth it. And Elon knows that because the feed is so busy, the feed is so messy, people will pay that $8 a month to get into the feed. Remember, the verification check allowing access to the For You feed. What is the For You feed? The For You feed is discovery. If you're not in the For You feed, you are not getting discovered by new people. It doesn't mean you won't necessarily get new followers. It just means that the ability for you to exacerbate your brand or really accentuate the messages that you have and propagandize your ideas out into the world, it needs to be pushed through an algorithm. I mean, this is the whole nature of YouTube, right? The only reason 86 people are here that I'm so thankful for, that you're here, you're spending your morning with me, know about me, is because eventually you were scrolling a platform, either Twitter or YouTube, and I popped up, or you searched on that platform and I popped up. And if I did not pop up, you would never have discovered me, because, Ramu, who's in the UK, I can't go to my local UK grocery store and hand out flyers to join my YouTube channel, because that's just impossible because I'm not in the UK. So we need technological platforms that are now globalized and have the ability to algorithmically curate content that is based on the interests of the people that care about that content, to connect people, to allow people like me that want to create content to establish the ability to have an audience. It doesn't mean I have to stop working hard. It just means that you need a little help from the platform to create the connection, especially if you don't have advertising dollars to get people's attention. If that's the case, and Twitter is the main advertising platform organically for people to find attention and get into that For You feed in order to get discovered, to drive traffic to their articles or their websites, etc., and Elon Musk knows this, then $8 a month is not that much to pay. Now, the problem with this, the main problem with this, is that new people are not going to be as incentivized to create tweets. So, for example, if you started a YouTube channel today, right, and YouTube's like, hey, in order to get any level of discovery on YouTube, and by the way, YouTube is already, I believe, the most competitive platform on the planet. 500 hours of video uploaded a minute. That's from 2019. It's probably like more like to 700 hours of video uploaded a minute, not a day, a minute. 60 seconds goes by, 500 hours of new content is uploaded that YouTube's algorithms have to somehow figure out how to show to more people in the face of all the other content they already have on the platform, right? Like, it is absolute, but I think the most opportunity is there because everyone goes there for video. They have 2.3 billion MAUs. But it's a very competitive platform, right? So if YouTube said, hey, to even have a chance of discovery, you have to pay $10 a month. That means already as a new creator, you're like, well, I was thinking of starting a YouTube channel and potentially becoming the next big YouTube star, but now I have to pay $120 a year just to even think that I have a chance to get started. And that doesn't even guarantee you're going to get subscribers. So I think for a new Twitter creator, if they realize, and they want to become a content creator, if they realize the barrier to entry is this like pile of cash, which if they don't pay, they have no shot, then it dilutes the experience for them to want to get started. Number two, if you're a brand new content creator and you're already verified and you're getting recommended in the feed, maybe the content's not going to be that good because you're brand new, which means the feed itself is not going to be that good. And I think algorithmically they can change that if they just really hone in on the algorithms to be able to curate the best content for the best people. But it again may lead to a dilution of the content in the feed from newer creators. So at the end of the day, I think this is net like good because it's going to make Twitter more profitable and it's going to make Twitter be a place that people actually have the ability to get distribution. I wish it was free, but with Twitter struggling from an advertising perspective, I'm also very logical. If you can't make money off ads, the only ways to incentivize people to pay for the platform, how do you incentivize payment? You need to get people to actually pay. Two other points on this. With the advancement of ChatGPT that I've been using profusely over the past week, I hope I used that word correctly in that sentence. I don't know if I did, so correct me if I'm wrong. ChatGPT is going to explode content. I've already seen massive amounts of people on Twitter basically just tweet like 10 times a day, and all of those tweets, it is very obvious they did not write those tweets. It is from ChatGPT, like a thread on the history of AI. It's like, bro, you didn't come up with that stuff like that. So it's like, and that's not a bad thing. It just means there's so much more content entering the feed that it begs the question of how Elon is going to be able to get more people to get distribution on that feed with this excessive amount of content. So all that content and sort of the AI powering all that content is good for Elon if he could monetize that. It's good for Twitter if he could monetize that, because the more content, the better, right? Every platform wants more content. But if you can't monetize that content because the ads suck, then the only way to kind of sift through all those massive amounts of content and not run up your server fees up to the wazoo is to get people to subsidize it somehow in the form of paying for it. And if paying for it leads to more distribution and discovery, then that's what will allow Twitter to eventually hopefully be profitable. Last thing I'll say on this is Elon Musk just offered employees equity at a $20 billion valuation, which is a more than 50% haircut on the $44 billion he paid for Twitter. He says there's a path to the company being a $250 billion company in the next 5 years. I actually believe him when he says that, because if they can grow the user base to 1 billion people, right now it's at about 350 billion, and they can get, 10% of those people to pay this, which is still 100 million people paying every month, is hard, but you got 100 million people paying $8 a month. That's 800 million in revenue every month. That's an additional, 9.6 billion a year. Seems kind of crazy to imagine, but just like if Twitter can become, now I think Twitter would have to have a lot more features to be able to justify the verification. It can't just be discovery. But even if 5%, right, of 1 billion people pay, which is hard. I get it's hard, but if you could do that, maybe buying in an equity at 20 billion right now is not the worst idea. And even if it doesn't get to 250 billion, if it gets to 100 billion, then there's a 5x for employees right now. So let's see what Elon Musk does. Ultimately, I like the idea. I've already paid for a verification badge. I've had a verification for a long time, and we will see where it goes from there. But I think Twitter is in a tough position when it comes to monetization, and they've got to do something dramatic. And Elon Musk basically is, going for a Hail Mary, saying, hey, you're literally not going to get your tweets to be able to show up in someone's feed if you don't pay for it. So it's time to pay up if you want to use Twitter. And I think the people that really care about using Twitter, which, it seems like a decent amount of them, will end up paying.